I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together. Hello, Superwomen. I have been having some deep conversations with my clients lately, the women that are gearing up to go to my Scottsdale retreat next week. If you are interested in attending one of my retreats, please send me a DM on Instagram. Would love to chat about what we have coming up for 2024. Last week, we discussed how high-achieving women are prone to unfulfilling, maybe even toxic, bordering on abusive relationships. And it's not what you might think. We discussed that as a superwoman, you have a lot in common with people like the Kardashians. We are people pleasers. We are great tolerators. A lot of us battle imposter syndrome of some kind. And we also don't see this relationship dynamic coming. And by default, we work harder to fix things. So we're going to talk about how doing that, how our innate response actually blocks intimacy today. But if you have not listened to episode 104, I suggest you stop and do that now and then come back. And I would love to take a moment to say a quick thank you to all of you that share my podcast, that comment, that interact with my content on Instagram. It is perpetually blocked by, I don't know if I should say it, but the powers that be. So people don't find out about me unless they magically know to search me or my content is shared. So I appreciate the comments, likes, shares. It means more than you know. And sharing my stuff with another woman that needs it that's how we're going to change things, one woman at a time. So let's get into today's content, part 2 of the Superwoman series, the ways that we block intimacy, how we are actually getting in our own way of the love that we deserve. And I do want to put the caveat that if you are in a full-on abusive relationship, this doesn't apply. This doesn't fully apply to you. You can clean up your side of the street, you can do your work, but if you are actively being manipulated, misled, lied to, then we have another conversation to have. Send me a DM and I can set you up with a therapist or some resources if you feel like that is you. So many of us have some attachment wounds of some type. Maybe our father was emotionally unavailable, could have been your mom. I find just generationally, parents were not as emotionally available. We came from the suck it up, deny your feelings, try harder. And maybe it's just growing up being female identifying in Western culture where we are taught to serve others and work hard and sacrifice and then enjoy the benefits of life. But regardless of your situation, superwomen, love meant that you had to earn it. And this is something that I see super successful women do and just people in general, but recreate a template with their relationships, whether it's romantic, whether it's with their employees or staff or their kids. We have internalized relationship roles from childhood, and we are so focused on checking the boxes, getting the career, the house, the car. And we think that doing all those things will bring us love, happiness, pleasure. We learn that love equals doing, masculine, achieve. And something that we are amazing at is doing the work. This makes us successful in some contexts, like career, and makes us feel very, very alone and undesired in other contexts, like intimate relationships and female friendships. In adulthood, we do not tend to expect more than the love we received as children. Superwomen, there were severe limitations with how I'm actually going to redo that one. So, and I also don't want to put a huge blame on our parents because I feel like it was just a generational thing. Gaslighting was just a standard form of parenting. I remember being in the car and saying, I'm thirsty, and being told, like, no, you're not, drink your spit. Pretty sure many people of my generation had been told that. And today, our kids are just rolling around with their water bottles. Or maybe it was, I'm sad. And it was, no, you're not. Suck it up. Stop crying. Try again. And again, a lot of our parents, I think, were well intentioned in this type of parenting. They thought that they were toughening us up. They thought that they were doing the right thing. And that's really where our line of like toxic relationship and abusive relationship lies, is like intent, right? Don't think our parents were intending to deny our emotional experience and give us anxiety and worthiness issues growing up. And lots of us, like I have some superwomen even to this day, that it's our parents showed up to our sports, they took us on vacation, but there's this underlying essence of love needed to be earned. We weren't good enough as is. We got it by performing and achieving. We also learned that caretaking feels like love, over giving feels like love. Make sure that everyone else is okay before we're okay. That feels like love. Abandoning our feelings, our desires, our needs feels like love. And things like putting ourselves first, being able to say, I am going to put my feet up while you all clean up after dinner. Like that feels foreign. The boundaries feel foreign. Asking for our needs to be met in areas where we're scared they won't feels foreign. It's easier to do ourselves than risk being rejected and feeling that wounded. And I have this conversation all the time where the superwoman is doing a lot of the efforting in the relationship or the household, planning the dates, planning the vacations, making sure there's time on people's calendars to do the things, or coordinating the childcare for the kids. And sometimes, like, their partner isn't even working. Sometimes they've retired their partner. Speaking of, you're going to want to listen to episode number 71, why retiring your husband is a great business goal and a bad relationship goal, if that speaks to your dynamic. And I digress. Back to today. So, and I'm not talking about the simple things, because if you're here, if you're listening, you've done the personal development work, you've done counseling, you have a certain level of self-awareness, you do the masterminds, and we get hung up around the area of self-abandoning our desires, asking for our needs to be met, and being able to receive love and pleasure without earning it. And even if we do work up the courage to ask for help, things might change for a few days, week, but then it ends up falling back on our plate, or the effort is in us constantly like reminding our person, our children. And yeah, we are stuck over functioning, they are under functioning. It is a yucky dynamic. Just to give a tangible example, talking to a client, she works, he doesn't. He does the childcare, but kids are going back to school. So he now has 8 hours a day freed up, 5 days a week. And she was worried about asking him to do some laundries and meals, and was instead going to consider hiring it out, which everyone needs to do what they need to do for their relationships and their situation. But what she was really desiring was her man to show up for her and take things off her plate. And now they're spending more connected time together. They actually even had sex in the pool for the first time ever. So if we can go from like completely disconnected to sex outside in new and fun places, like we can turn this around, superwomen. And it is not necessarily about effort. It's not necessarily about doing more. We wonder where the intimacy and the passion goes. And when it's more like a CEO, VP, mother-child dynamic, there's just a energetic mismatch. It doesn't work long term. When we are exhausted, overwhelmed, unfulfilled, blaming ourselves for why can't we just be happy? I have so much to feel grateful for. You end up feeling worse. You end up crusty like a withered plant begging for water. And even if somebody waters you, like it's not enough. You're still not fulfilled. And our partners are kind of shocked because they gave us what we asked for. But generally, what we asked for was a crumb or like a cup of water, which when in reality, what we needed was liters. And you're shocked and you're confused because you are still unfulfilled. Like you asked them to plan the date night. So they did plan the date night and you went and you got in a fight or it wasn't what you thought it would be. And some of this is our work. We are not looking to our partner to meet all of our needs. We need to learn how to do it as adults for ourselves, but it's about what are our true needs and desires that are not being met. And if you knew how to do this, then you would not be listening to me. So let's go back to the Kardashians for a minute and definitely listen to episode 104. There is no like, I give them credit to an extent for the loyalty, for the second chances, for trying to protect the children. Now, I'm not going to talk bad about dad to the kids. I am going to keep taking him back in spite of how many times he does me wrong. And there are some problems with this. The first is being caretakers and protecting others at the expense of yourself. This is self-abandonment, helping somebody else when it hurts or harms you. This is not love. This is a trauma response. Overgiving to your family, to your career, to the point that you have feminine burnout. That is a problem. That is not healthy, and it is not healthy to model to our children, because would we ever want them in a relationship where they felt like that? And this is not a shame thing. Like I have been there. Another problem is lacking truth. Truth is necessary to raise resilient children, especially in toxic situations. So pretending things are fine with mommy and daddy when the energy is actually the opposite, and kids are wise, they can pick up on this. It is confusing and it teaches them denial of their reality, their emotional experience, and they perpetuate that cycle to the next generation. And the third is that it lacks boundaries. Like I mentioned in last week's episode, superwomen are great tolerators. And you can listen to that episode or episode 90 for more. Now, I am currently navigating some of these situations, so I don't have all of the answers. And ironically, this is what I teach in the mentorship, the caretaking, the truth, the boundaries, the stepping into your power and living life from pleasure, from your desires. That is what I get to do with a group of 15 superwomen exactly like you. And stay tuned because we are going to be opening enrollment for that program to the public for a brief time for 2024. Also, send me a DM if you are interested in details on that. So, what do we do? What do we do when we feel crushed under the weight of our current situation and we want to make a change? When we are over functioners and our needs are always the last on the list. Yes, you might have a trainer. You might go get your nails done and get Botox, but things that really truly set your soul on fire, make you dripping wet, are non-existent. Superwomen tend to not choose partners that give to us in the same way that we give to them. We settle for crumbs. We do the lion's share of the duties of the management, or there's some of my clients that are the primary earners, and then they're in the, well, he does everything for me or does everything that I ask. But there's a lack or like an improvement in that situation that needs to happen too, to really turn up fulfillment for both partners. So most superwomen end up in relationships where they have to look after, fix, please, caretake for their partners. And the interesting thing is, some of our men truly do want to give to us, but we can't get out of our own way. We are in the driver's seat. We will not give up control. And eventually they've stopped asking to drive. And when men are looked after like that, or they're always in the passenger seat, they begin to resent the relationship as well. So I know this. I've made these mistakes. I've made the driver's seat control mistakes. I've made the letting go, making excuses for a toxic, abusive partnership mistakes. I've done the work. I found the therapist. I booked the appointments. And yeah, if you know you're underwater when you are booking a therapy appointment for your partner, not going to work. So, and I'm talking a lot about extremes because they illustrate my point, but there are some elements of this in superwoman relationships. So what do we want, and how do we get in our own way? Well, first of all, we have to start asking for and receiving more than breadcrumbs. And I want to talk about the ways that we block intimacy. So the first way is over giving. We give and we give and we give. We give even from an empty tank, and it makes us resentful. Beyond childhood, adults, people don't want to be fixed, rescued, have their problem solved for them. And for many of us superwomen, we are high functioning codependents. And really what people want is to be witnessed, to be seen, to be heard, to be known intimately. And we are so uncomfortable with other people being uncomfortable because we have been raised that it is our personal failure if those around us are upset. Another way that we block intimacy is self-abandoning. Self-abandoning our needs, our desire, our pleasure. And this could be something small in the bedroom, like wanting to try something new and being scared to ask, not communicating that there's not enough intimacy for you. Something small like wanting to go to your favorite steakhouse, but they recommend Thai or a different type of cuisine, and you acquiesce and go there. And it can also be bigger issues like holding yourself back in career because you don't want to move or disturb the peace, or you're scared it would trigger your partner. A third way that we block intimacy is by not prioritizing our health. When we get so burnt out, our nervous system is so dysregulated, the pleasure centers in our brain are shut off. It is so hard for us to receive in that state. And even when people try to give to us, we are in survival mode. So we're like, get away. The fourth is not knowing what we desire. And not knowing what we truly desire. Superwomen are great at setting goals. We are good at making plans for the next quarter or the next year, but knowing what we want, what we need in a moment that is for us, only for us, and will like set our soul on fire, we are not the best at that. We block intimacy by not knowing how to ask for what we desire. Like I mentioned before, the client, and actually there was very similar versions with 3 separate clients whose children were all going back to school, and my clients wanted their partners to take more off their plates because they had less childcare. And all of them were like, I don't know if I can ask for that. And I don't know if you watched Just Like That in the season finale of the second season, Charlotte talks, she has a little monologue, which I loved. And I'm sent to all of these clients, which is like, she is asking for a fraction of the help, a fraction of the slack to be picked up. So anyways, if you resonate, if that's you, if you're scared to ask for the extra help, or it's just easier to do it yourself, watch that episode. And number 6, not being able to receive. When we are given help, we feel inadequate. When we are given pleasure, we escape. When we are truly given to, like from love without any expectation of anything in return, feels a little weird to us because, like I talked about at the beginning of the episode, we learned that love is work. We learned that we had to earn it. We learned that we're only worthy of it with our titles and our accolades, and we're not deserving of pleasure just because we are. So this is our work to do. We can focus on our side of the street, our pleasure, our desire, and figure out how we can work on this and still maintain our relationships. I can't guarantee it, but I do know that the overwhelming majority of my clients are more connected, feel more supported, and are having better sex than ever when working on these things. So how do we start doing this work? My one-on-one applications are open. There is 2 spots left, possibly 1 by the time you get, like, this episode goes live. So fill out the application. Let me know what is going on, and I will know if this is a fit for both of us to work together. I don't want to waste your time if it's not, or my time. I will refer you to somebody else in my network. But book a time on your calendar and let's chat, let's connect. And working one-on-one, we have speed. We work through the DAR method, my desire, ask, receive method. Basically, we're working on all of those blocks. And when we're doing it with pleasure and turning on the pleasure centers in our brain, the healing can happen so fast. We're going to figure out your blocks. We're going to use pleasure practices that are easy to implement. This isn't hard. It doesn't take a lot of time. So if my work speaks to you, if this resonates, you desire to be desired and energetic and a person that other people want to be around, apply, book a time on my calendar, and let's chat. You can always DM me on Instagram for more information. Have a great week, everybody. If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.